Hello. Today we're talking about OneForm again, and this time we're going to talk about the API around hooks. If you have a fields inside of OneForm, you have access to the hook, but you also can have access to the hook outside of OneForm, which you're like, how does that work? You probably have some ideas on how it works. Maybe I have a context like around the entire app or something like that. No, OneForm doesn't require anything like that. If you want to use OneForm, you just put the form where it is. If you want to access OneForm outside of OneForm, all you have to do then at that point is you put an ID on the form. And whatever this ID is, which is like, hello, you. Then in your use field, if you want to put it out here, OneForm field, it could be use OneForm. Yeah, but this is for a specific field. If you want to use OneForm, I haven't created that yet. Here, you would pass a form ID into it, and it would be also hello, yo, like that. And that gives you access. Oh, you're not there yet. First thing, I have to make this an object. And then second, oh my goodness. I had to put a name here, and the name would be of the field that we're subscribing to. Right now, we don't have any fields, so we should add a field. OneForm.field. Ooh. And it's going to be an input, because this is, I don't have any form library right now. And the name is yo. That's the name of the field. You can tell I'm getting a little loopy at this point, because I've done so many videos. The name is yo, and that's the field name. And then am I done? No, I'm not done yet, because we want access to the value. The yo value. Yeah, we want access to yo value outside of OneForm. There you go. There's how you get access to it. This will fire an update anytime the field edits in here. And you're like, wow, that's really cool. How would you do that? Yeah, there would be JavaScript event listeners and stuff. If you pass this in, I'll trigger it. If you don't, then you don't have that code running. If this is there, this will start the event listeners, because it's assuming that if you're passing an ID into your form, that you're trying to access values of the form outside the form. It also means you can access errors outside the form. It would be use OneForm error or field error. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Probably like that. And you'd also have a form ID, and then you would give the field name that you're listening to errors. And this could be field error field. It could be a field that doesn't exist, and you just named it error field. You can name it errors if you want to display all the errors on the top of your form or something. So why would you use these hooks? That's a really good question. I'm not sure. I know why you would use these, the form errors, because you have to build a component that uses this hook, and you could just use it everywhere, but you have to build the component that uses these hooks so that you can style your error messages. You don't even have to style it in this component. You don't even have to actually make this. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. Also, you don't need this form ID. The only reason the form ID exists at all is because you need to be able to access these hooks outside of the form. If you don't want to access them outside of the form, and you have a component inside the form, some component you're defining here, you can access these hooks without the ID. That's fine too. This is not yo value, this is yo error. If you want to, let's see, what else. Using this, I have used this. If I want to do that Excel spreadsheet kind of thing, I did use the form field one. I needed it because I needed to get access to the values so that I could change them and change what's not being passed into OneForm, but what my onChange function is doing. Oh, I forgot the onChange function. Okay. I made a video about it, but then I was like, wow, that video sucks. And then I forgot about it. But there is an onChange function that you can pass into it. I guess that'll be another video. Not this one. You can get access to fields, and you can get access to errors in or outside of OneForm. And that's super convenient. And just in most cases, you don't need them. The only one you might need is this one. Your fields in here, you can create your own component. And if this component handles errors, OneForm.field will pass in the errors into your custom input component. You don't have to do that yourself. You don't have to manage this. You don't have to use these hooks. These hooks are optional because OneForm does everything for you. You don't need them. But if you're doing complex stuff like I've done, just for show, you definitely need access to those hooks. This is actually error messages. This will be an array of error messages for this particular field. That's something important about this. This will be the value, but this, I think, this gives you way more than just the value. We should go into this and explain how it works. This will return other things. I can't remember what this returns, but I'm pretty sure it's just the error messages. But this one definitely will return a value, but it'll also return error messages. And this is what I was saying is that if you're using this, you don't necessarily need this. This is only for error messages. The thing is, this built in, this hook, if you use it, it registers a field. If you don't want it to register a field, that's where there might be some customization you need to do. Is it that it registers? Oh, no, I'm changing that. Right now it does. I'm changing it so it doesn't register the field. I'm making it so that you would register the field yourself, and then there would be a set value. You could set the value yourself of this field, which is fine. That's what you would put in like an onChange handler. You'd put the set value. And it does handle like checkboxes and inputs and selects and stuff like that already. I can't remember. I think I got radio buttons working, but I can't remember. They're a little bit tricky. I have an example somewhere in a code sandbox or something. There's a touch function, which touches the field. I know it sounds so bad, but the other word is dirty. Validate, there's also a validate function, which does, as far as I know, this triggers the, let's see if I remember correctly. I looked at my notes. This is why I'm wrong. Validate in the past just did a blind validate, just validated every form field. And that was fine, especially performance-wise. It was still okay, and it handled it. But that was because we had some other issues. That why I wanted to make sure we validated every time. Because if you hide a form field and you show it again, then we need to revalidate. It now triggers validation only for this particular form field. If you call validate, it triggers validation, but only from that form field. And there are some reasons you might want to call this yourself, but it's being output here. And the reason is because you need to put this, if you're doing OneForm field, if you're using OneForm field, using OneForm, why is it, I gotta rename this. It doesn't look good. What if it's OneForm.useField? How about that? You know, something like this. That could be better. Yeah, this would be more convenient. Then you just have to import OneForm. But then you're also getting this hook when you don't need it. But it's gonna be loaded by your library anyway, most likely, if you do anything like this. You might need to call this yourself. Now, normally, here's the thing. OneForm.field does all of this for you. All of this stuff is done for you in there. If you need access to any of this information, specifically the value and the setValue function, these are probably the ones that you're going to need access to in your functions or your components. If you're using this, you would use most likely these two and only those two. You would use nothing else. But if you do want these, they're there. I'm giving access to them because I am using them in here. This actually does use this hook, but there's like a lot of internal stuff, like why is the validate and all this stuff in here and all this. If you're going to write your own OneForm.field, you're going to have to manage all these. And there's more to it, but this is just like the very basics. There's not more to it being there. I think this is all that would be there, but that explains why I'm saying that I don't think you really need to use these hooks. I mean, I've created components that make it easy and you just put stuff in them, but you still will want this at some point just to have your own error message field. Or you could use the error messages are being passed on. I don't know how exactly, I can't remember how I'm passing them into your components, but there will be a way that we do pass error messages into your components. That will be very important to understand. Good. Now I have to talk about the onChange, but not now. It'll be next video.